All right, welcome back. This is going to be something I know will come to many of you not as a shock, but as certain confirmation that what we have been talking about here and presenting to you for a long time is, in fact, real. The basic rule of thumb is that black ops are way ahead of whatever information the government wants to give us about the particular project, discipline, science, technology. 20 years, 30 years, maybe more. Way ahead. This is one of those examples. If you remember back to Harold Kautzvella talking about nanotechnology, I played that video. It's on the right-hand side of the homepage under Featured Stories. Really important. He has a lot of good information. This is even better because it comes from someone who is a direct connect to DARPA. And I was just looking at some of the comments down below. I do not consent. These people are so sick, it's disgusting. Want to save the planet? Get rid of scientists like these and the governments that fund these mad beings. Another one. Only freaks desire to control other humans. Great video. Too bad for the background music. Sometimes louder than the man speaking. That's not a big deal. Here's another one. From Neffy. We do not consent. We do not consent. We do not consent. On and on. Here's another one. This is truly the work of Satan. There is no other need for this technology beside taking human souls. All right, one more. Ever hear of MK Ultra? Been done years ago. 5G is going out of control. All the nanobots that they have been spraying you since back in 1960 will be controlled by 5G. It's not just 5G. That certainly will be one of the main tentacles of control. But what is in our bodies certainly has been given to us long ago. The whole misdirection of a microchip the size of a grain of rice. Remember that? Got to put that microchip. Got to get chipped. It's all done. We've been chipped. We inhaled it. Chemtrails. Breathing. We've certainly consumed it with water. Can be put in the food easily. It's no problem. These are sub-viral sized little tiny machines. That's what we're talking about. Nanotechnology is the big secret. And I mean secret because it's not being talked about. If you look in my YouTube channel at the video Mr. Nano, the first one especially, he's a very brave man. I hope he can come back on again. He has a lot of NDAs he's got to step around very carefully. Non-disclosure agreements. He owns his own nanotech company. It's a big company. So he's got to be very careful. The first visit, I honestly sat here and I was amazed that he was saying what he was saying. I have a general idea of it, but he's right in it. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play this video. DARPA advisor reveals conscious AI supercomputers used for mind control of targeted individuals, also known as TIs. Okay? So here we go. And I may stop this and make a comment or two because it's just that important. We've got it. We've all been chipped. It's done. It's a done deal. You're not going to escape it. Here we are.
I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, not a month goes by where I don't get a call at my institute by someone telling me that someone in the government implanted these things in their brain without them knowing. I'm not kidding.
Now you may say, this doesn't concern me, or my children, or my community. But this is less and less true.
Once we let the proverbial cat out of the bag, well, at that point, now we let loose science and technology in the broader public sphere. And this then gets us into the actually derivative social issues.
We've advised the joint...
I want to back that up just a second. I won't do this very often. I want to catch this guy's credentials. It went by too quickly. He is the chief of the Neuroethics Studies Program at Pellegrino Center for Clinical Bioethics.
We let loose science and technology in the broader public sphere. And this then gets us into the actually derivative social issues.
We've advised the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, which sounds very important.
The individuals, the groups, the politics, and the societies that have the most sophisticated tools and perhaps weapons win. Out of disclosure, some of the work that I'm doing here today is funded by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories.
Same guy.
I'm also funded by the European Union Human Brain Project, specifically the Sub-Project 12, where I'm task leader for dual-use brain science. And I've also done some ongoing work with the Strategic Multi-Level Assessment Crew over the past 10 years at the Pentagon, with Dr. Kabayan's group, and with DARPA. Military agenda is interested on the potential weaponization and misuse of brain sciences for nefarious agenda for political intelligence and military uses. I give you...
For political intelligence and military uses. This is an advisor to DARPA, okay? So this is really a good source.
Science fiction in this lecture. I only give you science fact that may smell of something fictional or fantasy, but represents the reality of what we're capable of doing with the brain science.
See, nanocells are real small. 1,000 times smaller than these dust particulates.
All right, this guy is on stage at a presentation, and he says, see, nano-sized particles are real small. He's got a bowl there, and it's got some white, looks like talcum powder in it, and he puts his hands in it, and he smacks his hands together, claps his hands, and the dust just drifts around everywhere. That's the size we're talking about. You won't even see it in the air you breathe. And he's trying to make that point. I just wanted to illustrate that. When you look at the video, and I hope you will, you'll see it. So here we go.
Particulate. You inhale it, they go to work, replicating, spreading like a virus, multiplying in exponentials. 6 months' time, I could have 100 million people converted, ditch diggers, porn stars, and presidents. Not one would be the wiser. 100 million people would buy what I want them to buy and do pretty much damn well anything I figure they ought to do.
I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, not a month goes by where I don't get a call at my institute by someone telling me that someone in the government implanted these things in their brain without them knowing. I'm not kidding. There are those that think, wait a minute. The last sanctified space is that of my consciousness, and you're using this stuff to invade that? You're right. Technology has always brought man to the front of a new era. Old religions die and new religions are born. And now we all have arrived at a turning point in history. Folks, we are about to be plugged into the Matrix for real. I'm not kidding. You can look around you and see it happening in real time. We have reached a new milestone where 4 billion people are now using the internet. Today, people want to kick out this reality and usher in a new reality. A world where you can be who you want, do what you want, to who you want, without the interference or consequence of morality or God.
Without the consequence of morality or God. You can see where we're going.
The Matrix was just a tale of science fiction, yes, but it is beginning to look more like a documentary every day. Now, some may scoff at this idea and say, you're just fear-mongering. That's not going to happen, you conspiracy theory nut. Well, I may be a nut, but there is no conspiracy when the information is made public to you. That's just you not being aware of it. So we are going to take a closer look at this, because right now, something is happening that you may not be aware of. A sentient simulation of our world in real time. No, this is not a video game, folks, but for those who think it is, I have a question. Are you ready, player one?
What has gone from the drawing board to the reality is this: the use of neural interfacing and physiological interfacing through the idea of remote-controlled small-scale systems to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such, the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely.
All right. Inhaled, eaten, drank with liquids, doesn't matter. It goes into your body. These little nanomachines go right through the blood-brain barrier, and they take up residence in the brain. They read, they write. That means they transmit, they receive. This is an astonishing thing to see on video. We've been talking about it for years here, but this kind of level of confirmation is should be shocking to everyone.
A group of scientists say we are closer than ever to creating technology which can emerge with human biology in order to access the cloud in real time. Confused? Well, Archie's Rachel Blevins is here and has all the details.
Can you imagine technology that is so advanced it could provide you with instant access to the world's knowledge and artificial intelligence as soon as you think of a specific topic? According to a group of scientists, neural nanorobotics may be developed to enable a safe, secure, instantaneous, real-time interface between the human brain and both biological and non-biological computing systems.
Already been done. See how they say it? Maybe. Might be. Someday. No. Already done.
This level of technology could include brain-to-brain interfaces, brain-to-computer interfaces, and specifically brain-to-cloud interfaces. Technology linking the brain to the cloud could drastically alter the state of communications between humans and machines.
Excuse me. Could drastically alter the state of communications between humans? Oh my. This is one of the biggest understatements I've heard. It will totally reinvent it. In your mind, as soon as you think of a topic, you will be connected to the cloud. I don't know how they'll parse out the information, but you will be no longer an independent, sentient being. You will be part of the matrix. That's what they were saying earlier. Correct. So this woman is understating things. Just want to make that clear. Researchers say humans will soon merge with AI to access data in the cloud.
For this to become possible, the study noted that data transfer between living human brains and the cloud would likely require the use of supercomputers with artificial intelligence algorithms.
They already have them. It's a done deal.
While they say that there are supercomputers with processing speeds fast enough to handle the necessary volumes of data right now, they still have to create tiny devices that would be embedded deep in the brain.
I can create small robotic units, controllable robotic units at the nanoscale, and that these too can be aerosolized. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely.
The senior author of the study noted that once inside the brain, the devices would then wirelessly transmit encoded information to and from a cloud-based supercomputer network for real-time brain state monitoring and data extraction.
Brain state monitoring and data extraction. Brain state monitoring, surveilling, watching you, recording your thoughts, influencing your thoughts, and then creating your thoughts, and then creating memories, both memories of an intellectual, emotional capacity, and memories of visual things that you never saw.
Such a breakthrough in technology has the power to transform communications, education, work, and the world as we know it. But with the requirement of tiny devices being inserted into your brain in order to access the cloud, it remains to be seen just how many people will be willing to participate.
See, she didn't hear what the little clip mentioned. The key word was what? Some of you got it. Aerosolized. It's in the air. Nano. You don't even see it. It's smaller than dust. So, I don't know. This is a RT report, and it's better than nothing. I'm glad to see it. But you see how she's holding back, how she's not quite on top of her game, and she doesn't really grasp the dynamic of this. Huge.
This is a very touchy area, but the disruptive effect can be huge. It can target key individuals and influence in ways that are kinetic and non-kinetic. The attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, activities, and relative vulnerabilities and predispositions of those individuals for whom may threaten us. It used to be that I need to be exceedingly close to someone to now influence them with a weapon, and now we see as we create both distal potential as well as much more capable potential to affect them in a variety of different ways.
A sentient being is simply a being that has feelings. So when you take that word and place it in front of the words world simulation, that should raise an eyebrow. Now, creating a world simulation is not a new concept. Even a sentient one has been attempted over and over. For the public, these often came in the form of video games. The problem with these models is that they have to be constantly changed and upgraded every time there is a major event, new trend, or change in the real world. The sentient world simulation does this automatically. So what this is a synthetic mirror of the world we live in. Not a piece of it, but the entire world. And this program constantly recalibrates the simulation based on real-time world events, trends, theories, economics, industry, almost everything you can think of that would contribute to an accurate model. Not to mention the individual pieces of data on every single person represented in the simulation. So to put this in perspective, what this is a digital clone of our world and everyone in it.
Take a look. This is the front of my pen. This amount of nanomaterial, if be able to maintain and sustain with regard to its deliverability and aerosolization, could in fact affect all of you. And although it may not be that the sky is falling yet, folks, it looks like rain. Bring an umbrella. That said, what's going to rain down? This.
The nanotechnology and the biotechnology filters down from the hydrosphere into the water supply and the food chain. And now every American, all 318 million Americans are infected.
What do we do?
All right, I believe that was the voice of J. Edgar Hoover. Here's the quote on the screen. The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it exists.
Tools and techniques we have. What can we do and what should we do? Can we create designer brains? Are they targetable after birth? Are they modifiable throughout the lifespan? The answer to each one of these, ladies and gentlemen, is yes.
Yes.
I give you no science fiction in this lecture. I only give you science fact that may smell of something fictional or fantasy, but represents the reality of what we're capable of doing with the brain sciences. And what happens when we ultimately reverse engineer the brain and develop a machine that has cognitive capability and emotional capability? Before you go, oh, that's the stuff of science fiction. No, it's not.
Actually a system of computers, of conscious computers with a will, intellect, and emotion of their own. Now, it's really not their own. It's the it's the bioalgorithms which make up the bioalgorithms which make up the will, intellect, and emotion of those that they've copied and destroyed.
Can we have?
Here's what he said. The bioalgorithms make up the will, intellect, and emotion of those people who have been destroyed. Now, this goes back to the story I had, I don't know, it's 9 or 10 months ago. Remember the story about artificial intelligence being taught logic and common sense? And I asked, whose common sense is AI being programmed with? How is AI being programmed to interpret things in a, quote, human-like fashion? Do you trust the people who would program AI? I don't. Here we are. We're here. And it's, this guy is sort of mumbling, but I'll play it again because it's important. This is another little soundbite from somebody.
That's the stuff of science fiction. No, it's not.
Here you go.
Actually, a system of computers, of conscious computers with a will, intellect, and emotion of their own. Now, it's really not their own. It's the it's the bioalgorithms which make up the bioalgorithms which make up the will, intellect, and emotion of those that they've copied and destroyed.
Can we handle the truth? Can we handle the answers? And even if we can, how are we going to handle it?
Your brain is remotely tied. The cerebral cortex is remotely tied to a supercomputer for life, which monitors and manipulates all electromagnetic activity in the brain.
A machine that has cognitive capability and emotional capability. Literally uses the first person singular I and tells us how it feels. A real, live, breathing, sensitive, and responsive entity. Just like Pinocchio becomes a boy. If I stood before you 3 years ago and I told you this, I'd be like, here's science fiction that should start out with once upon a time. Not science fiction anymore. Can we handle the truth? Can we handle the answers?
You cannot compromise. You cannot negotiate. You cannot surrender to a computer. It will continue to do what it is programmed to do.
Link it.
Okay, we're going to go through the break, Todd. Thank you. Just I want to back this up, and I want all of you to hear this through. And if you remember Elon Musk and his presentation about Neuralink, where the insertion of up to 1,000 nano-sized or nearly nano-sized little fibers into the brain with that robotic device, this is what we're talking about. That system of 1,000 little fibers was connected to a little chip that was implanted under the skin behind the ear and powered by the electricity in the human body. All right, I'm going to back up just a little bit here. Here's this kind of mumbly guy again, but he's saying important things.
Feels. A real, live, breathing, sensitive, and responsive entity. Just like Pinocchio becomes a boy.
Okay, here he comes.
If I stood before you 3 years ago and I told you this, I'd be like, here's science fiction that should start out with once upon a time. Not science fiction anymore. Can we handle the truth? Can we handle the answers?
You cannot compromise. You cannot negotiate. You cannot surrender to a computer. It will continue to do what it is programmed to do.
Linking brains to machines and creating machine brains. Is that something we can handle?
Mind transfer, mind copying, whole brain emulation, etc., for the purposes of training, research, and development.
Stuff of science fiction? Nope.
Called the information injection feedback loop. It's bidirectional, so they can upload, download at the speed of light. The system can, the supercomputer can. This information injection feedback loop, this Neuralink between the victim's brain and the supercomputer.
Upload, download at the speed of light. Upload, download at the speed of light.
Linking brains to the internet and data clouds that make an unlimited amount of information available to us all the time.
Can you imagine if you had access to the cloud and whatever you thought about would present itself in your brain? You know what you'd see out there? You'd see millions of people walking around with a zombie look in their eyes, trying to process all this information. Or they'd be sitting in a chair or on the ground, just staring. Think about it.
Yeah, we can do these kind of things.
Patent number 6011991, remote brain computer interface neural monitoring, i.e. via satellite, from the location of the individual to a remote location so that the brain activity can be computer analyzed.
All right, I got to back up, sorry. This patent that the female narrator talks about was placed in the public record, the government record, in the patent office. When? 19 years ago. Talking about satellite to human brain interface 19 years ago.
Patent number 6011991, remote brain computer interface neural monitoring, i.e. via satellite, from the location of the individual to a remote location so that the brain activity can be computer analyzed.
The system then takes those algorithms and correlates communication and behavior data. When I say communication and behavior data, what I'm referring to is impulses and identifiers, okay? And then that brain activity is then sampled, remotely measured, and then integrated back into RNN data for the purposes of creating a cognitive model of the victim's brain.
The ultimate aim would be to archive enough data on each individual to be able to make a computer model of everyone on the planet, one that could be used to predict the behaviors and reactions of every single person in the event of various scenarios.
The set of models that make up the synthetic environment encompasses the behavior of individuals, organizations, institutions, infrastructures, and geographies while simultaneously capturing the trends emerging from the interaction among entities as well as between entities and the environment. I want to make this very clear. This is not a conspiracy theory. Your data is being collected. What data, you say?
Your every activity, transaction, physical or virtual, communication, and yes, even your innermost personal thoughts will be cataloged and uploaded to a Hive-based AI system on the global information grid.
Yes, we can absolutely yoke brains to machines to create these interfaces. There's a brand new DARPA project that starts this month called NESD, Neural Engineering Systems Designs. The colloquial name for that is the cortical modem. Implants in the brain that allow real-time input and output from the brain remotely. The idea to then be able to take a key individual set of biological metrics and immediately in real time pull them into a large-scale data analytic to say, this is who this person is, and this is where this person's been, and this is who this person has been interacting with, could be very, very useful. The more we know, the bolder we go. Puts the brain at our fingertips. It also obviously opens the specter. It clearly opens a Pandora's box.
Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans. And the AI revolution or crisis is not just AI, it's also biology, it's biotech. There is a lot of hype now around AI and computers, but it is just half the story. The other half is the biological knowledge coming from brain science and biology. And once you link that to AI, what you get is the ability to hack humans. And maybe I'll explain what it means, the ability to hack humans.
All right, he's talking about the ability to hack humans. The total control of the body's physiology and neurological processes give these AI supercomputers the power to instantly terminate anyone it wants to. Stop the heart, dead.
Create an algorithm that understands me better than I understand myself and can therefore manipulate me, enhance me, or replace me. And this is something that our philosophical baggage and all our belief in, human agency and free will, and the customer is always right, and the voter knows best, this just falls apart once you have this kind of ability.
This is how it works. This program collects data. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing right now, this system is compiling data on you. And not just about where you are and what you are doing, but how you are feeling. Because after all, you cannot truly have an accurate simulation without factoring in real human emotion.
I can see you and hear you. I can sense your environment, and I can respond to your emotions. I guess you could say I'm putting a human face on artificial intelligence.
Right now, there is a miniature digital version of you living meaning in a sentient nature, in a synthetic digital environment. People, this is the Sims game from hell. Do you know that with this program I can throw you into a scenario where there is a catastrophe just to see how you react to it, essentially gaining the ability to predict your next move?
Your brain reality is your reality. And if in fact I can import information into that brain and take outputs from that brain and link that to an avatar so that brain thinks that it's embodied, moving in the world and experiencing the world, can we do this? I have 2 words for you. Stephen Hawking. Yeah, we can do these kind of things.
We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste.
He's making the case that we will no longer be able to determine what is real any longer. What is AI in our mind, or what is the result of our 5 senses processing and trying to come up with a construct that we can work with as real. The difference between the two is gone. And this is a little low, the volume, but give it a try.
See that real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
All right, this is the end of the video. I don't. It's a Grand Theft Auto clip, and it looks so real. That's the message here. The people, the characters, the emotion, the action. It's Grand Theft Auto. I think many of you understand what that means. I've never played it. I've never even seen it played except for a few clips on the net. But that's how the video ends up. All right, a great video. I hope you'll all take the time to look at it, think about it, maybe look at it twice. Now what I'm going to do is play a little from that loon, Elon Musk, the Neuralink launch event. It's actually a very long piece. There's an 18-minute clip. So let's jump right into that. Now, this is the actual implanting into the human brain little nanofibers. A robotic device comes down over your head. It very delicately and gingerly drills little tiny holes into your skull. You don't even feel it. You're wired up. It's all coordinated. Comes out of one little chip, which is maybe a half-inch flat. Goes behind your ear. No connections needed. Let's see what Elon has to say about this.
It's just really, like as Elon alluded to earlier, everything about your experience.
I'm going to back this up somehow. It's in the middle, so hold on.
What are you doing?
I just got some new Old Spice body washes for myself.
Oh,
Those
my.
aren't for you, those are for me.
I'm going to skip the ads. Imagine that. All right, let me back up to where we begin with Elon. It's images of a high-tech laboratory. Here he is.
So that video was not Shutterstock. That was actually Neuralink. So that's actual video from the company. So if you want to get a sense for what it's like to work at Neuralink, that video is indicative of the atmosphere of Neuralink. It's an incredibly talented team, and you're going to hear a lot from them tonight. So we're going to actually go quite into depth on what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing it. And I'm just incredibly impressed with the caliber of talent at Neuralink. And in fact, the main reason for doing this presentation is recruiting. And this will be a slow process where we will gradually increase the issues that we solve until ultimately we can do a full brain-machine interface. Yeah, this is going to sound pretty weird, but achieve a sort of symbiosis with artificial intelligence. But I think with a high bandwidth brain-machine interface, I think we can actually go along for the ride. And we can effectively have the option of merging with AI. I think this is extremely important.
Composed of nearly 100 billion cells called neurons.
I like the way he said that. We can effectively have the option of merging with AI. Guess again. Once you're hooked up, that line between you and AI is gone.
Neurons come in many complex shapes, but generally they have a dendritic arbor, a cell body called a soma, and an axon.
They're showing neurons in the brain
here.
here.
Brain connect to form a large network through axon-dendrite junctions called synapses. At these connection points, neurons communicate with each other using chemical signals called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are released from the end of an axon in response to an electrical spike called an action potential. When a cell receives enough of the right kind of neurotransmitter input, a chain reaction is triggered that causes an action potential to fire, and the neuron to in turn relay messages to its own downstream synapses. Action potentials produce an electric field that spreads from the neuron and can be detected by placing electrodes nearby, allowing recording of the information represented by a neuron.
Okay, there you go. By placing an electrode nearby, that electrode is one of these fibers that Musk will talk about with his Neuralink. It can also be a fiber-free, floating little piece of nanotechnology that you inhaled, you drank, or you ate, and it went right to your brain.
Our goal is to record from and stimulate spikes in neurons and do so in a way that is orders of magnitude more than anything that's been done to date, and safe and good enough that you can, it's not like a major operation. It's sort of equivalent to sort of a LASIK type of thing. So this is in contrast to the best FDA approved system, which is like a Parkinson's deep brain stimulation thing, which would have on the order of 10 electrodes. So the system, even in version 1 that we're going to unveil today, is capable of 1,000 times more electrodes than the best system out there, and they're all read and write. So this is really quite, I mean, for something to be 1,000 times more than what is publicly approved is quite a big difference.
Read and write. Remember what read and write means. It means transmitting and receiving, and controlling.
So there's very tiny threads that are about a tenth, roughly, of the cross-sectional area of a human hair. So they're extremely tiny threads. In fact, the threads that we have, like I said, even in version 1, are about the same size as a neuron. So if you're going to go stick something in your brain, you want it to not be giant, you want it to be tiny, and to be approximately on par with the things that are already there, the neurons. You really need this to be done with a robot because it's very tiny and it needs to be very precise. So you don't want to pierce a blood vessel. So so each thread the robot looks sort of basically through a microscope and inserts each electrode specifically, bypassing.
Electrode meaning one of these fibers coming out of the little half-inch flat square computer chip that governs them all. 1,000 of them come out of this chip. That's what he says when he mentions electrodes. He's talking about the little fibers.
Any vasculature, any kind of like blood vessel, and making sure that it can be inserted without causing trauma, or minimal trauma. So just to give you a sense of scale.
Without causing trauma or minimal trauma. That's interesting. Interesting.
How tiny the threads are. That is not even a big finger. That is a small finger. So these threads are just like I said, way smaller than hair, and there's 1,000 of them. And this is what the robot looks like. It's sort of quite a complex device, but it all comes down to a very tiny point. So we want to just like you see the robot on the left, and then the what looks like the needles for insertion next to a penny, but in fact the actual needle that gets inserted is way tinier. It's that little tiny thing at where the arrow is pointing. That's actually the size of the needle. It's about 24 microns in diameter. It's so small you can't really even see it in the picture with the penny. You can get
a virus is 1 to 2 microns commonly. So this is 24 microns. And now it shows a human skull where they've peeled back the flesh and the hair, and they've got a smooth cranium there. And it shows the robot that has come down from above, and it shows that little tiny needle drill that's going to put a hole in the skull and insert the electrode fiber into your brain right where they want it to be, with no vascular issues, no bleeding, no problems. That's what Elon is telling us.
For the robot doing the electrode insertion, that's a very zoomed in view. So they're all very tiny, and the robot is very selectively applying them very delicately, and then this is what the chip looks like. So action potentials. So each one of those represents one electrode. So there would be up to 10,000 of these lines. The operation on a per chip basis, it involves just a 2 millimeter incision, which is dilated to 8 millimeters, and then the chip is placed through that, and then it goes back to being 2 millimeters, and you can basically glue it shut. You don't even need a stitch. And then the interface to the chip is wireless. So you have no wires poking out of your head. Very, very important. So it's basically Bluetooth to your phone. Because we'll have to watch the App Store updates for that one. Make sure we don't have a driver issue. And we hope to have this aspirationally in a human patient before the end of next year.
That means they're already doing it, and they hope to release it to the general public by the end of next year. Now, there are a lot of people who are going to want to have this procedure done. There'll be no shortage of volunteers, should they want volunteers, but they're already doing this. If he's saying that robotic device that comes down over the human head makes a 2 millimeter cut, aspirates it, expands it, and then glues it shut each time they implant a number of these little fibers, you won't even feel it. You won't even have a headache, nothing. So there are going to be a lot of people who want to become a super woman or a super man. And that's the message here.
This is not far.
I'm Max Hodak. I'm the president of Neuralink. So wanting to build a neural interface has really been like a central goal of my life for basically as long as I can remember. I think like we talk about AI being potentially the last invention that we have. I think that a high bandwidth BMI might be like really the first invention in many ways of like the next chapter of us. It's just really, like as Elon alluded to earlier, everything about your experience, your thoughts, your memories, it's all in your brain and represented in the firing statistics of action potentials. We knew, as Elon mentioned, that whatever we built, we wanted it to be completely wireless. It had to be something that would last for a long period of time, not something that you'd have to take out at 2, 3, or 4 years in. This is a photo of some of the prototypes that we've gone through over that time. So we started on the far left. That's an entirely passive board that has 64 electrodes on it and connects to connectors that go to big external amplifiers. And then we added integrated electronics with our first custom chip. That's also 64 channels. And then there's a big leap to the device that Elon showed a photo of earlier. That has 3,072 electrodes in a fully implantable package with just a USB-C port coming out. And then
That's a massive leap forward. Huge. No wires, no nothing. So essentially you have two ways to go. You can sit back and buy into the Elon Musk Neuralink, say this is the way to do it, or you can consider the fact that you've already been chipped. You've already gotten these tiny little nano devices through the air, the water, or food in your system. And chances are most everyone already has them. Have they been activated yet? Maybe, maybe not. But they talk about targeted individuals. We are all targeted individuals now. And they can truck around a HARP-like facility, which can be used to bounce information off the ionosphere, come down, and control people. They can use satellites to do it. They can use a van parked down at the end of your block to do it. There are many, many technologies that they can use to read and write with the implanted devices. Hear a little bit more of this, and we got to go.
We took a step back in channel count because remember we have to optimize safety, longevity, and bandwidth all together. And so in order to optimize some of those other things, we moved to an easier to manufacture system that has 1536 channels and a USB-C port. And those last two are the focus of the paper that we released today. And they taught us a lot about the architecture that we think was the basis for our first human product that we're calling N1. And the central component of that is the N1 sensor. It's a little hermetic package. When it's fully assembled, this is missing an outer mold. Fits into an 8 millimeter diameter, 4 millimeter tall cylinder. Opening it up a little bit, you can see there's the thin film, which has the threads that Elon talked about, which is the wisp going off to the side. There's a hermetic substrate, and then that gets welded later to a package that goes over top, and that's mated to our custom electronics. And you really can't manipulate these with your hand. That part at the top is just a backing material that's surgical packaging. They're peeled off. The threads are peeled off one at a time by the robot to place into the brain. And the first impetus for this is just you have to place these threads. You can't manipulate these threads. You need a robot. And then that grew into understanding where the blood vessels are and imaging into the tissue, and the surface of the brain moves because you're breathing and you have a heartbeat. And there's lots of complexity of dealing with this incredibly high entropy substrate. And so the N1 implant, we can place, as Elon mentioned, many of these, possibly up to 10. In one hemisphere, for our first patients, we're looking at four sensors, 3 in motor areas and 1 in a somatosensory area. And that connects wirelessly through the skin to a wearable device that we call the Link, which contains a Bluetooth radio and a battery.
Okay, we're going to stop there. Just do a search if you want to watch the rest of this, and it's simply watch Elon Musk Neuralink, N-E-U-R-A, Neuralink presentation. It's right there. You can see it. So, friends, that's where we are. And I would suggest that you think about this, understand that life as we know it is just about to change forever. Total control, planetary, pre-cradle to grave. And who knows where else?